Well, it's great to have the opportunity to be here with you all this morning. Normally, we are upstairs in the Pathfinders class, a little bit different age group that we have up there. I was tempted to put a picture up of a cookout that we recently had, and with all of the kids that are in that class. We started with that class a little over 10 years ago. I think we had 2 or 3 little ones in the class. Currently we have 3 additional moms that are expecting, and so we're waiting on them. And that'll bring our total up to 64 kids in that class. So we haven't been hosting anything at our house lately. But the park is great. But anyway, it's a lot of fun to see all of the kids and the excitement that they have, and getting around and doing all that, and how great the parents are that are raising these kids. They do an excellent job. Not exactly sure what's going on with my connection here, but hopefully once I click something, it will stay up there, and we can go through the lesson. As has been mentioned, we're going to talk about Hezekiah and the prayers that he had in 2 Kings. And we're going to talk about that and look at that. Before we get to that particular prayer, we're going to take a look at a little bit of background as to what initiated that prayer that he was having. You know, when we talk about parents, Hezekiah's dad was Asa, and he was an individual that was very evil. He was bad. King. He had desecrated the land with idols. He closed the temple. He had introduced child sacrifices. He became allied with Asherah, and we'll find out more about that particular country as we go through. But he was an individual that you wouldn't look at as one that would help in developing someone that was very close to God. But as we go through this, maybe, there we go. We find that in chapter 18 of 2 Kings, and I'm sure, I don't know if you can see it from there, but anyway, just to talk about that just a little bit. When Hezekiah began his reign, he was 25 years old. And I think about someone that is 25 years old that is reigning over a country. He reigned in Jerusalem for 29 years. And during that period of time, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as this says father. It's interesting, different translations talk about ancestor, David, and had done. He removed from the high places, he smashed the sacred stones and cut down the Asher poles. He broke to pieces the bronze snake Moses had made that had been used by the Israelites for idol worship. Hezekiah also trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after. He held fast to the Lord and did not stop following him. He kept his commandments. He kept his commands the Lord had given to Moses, and the Lord was with him. He was successful in whatever he undertook. He rebelled against the king of Asherah and did not serve him. And that began where you will see a little bit of what that impact had on his life. But when you read about Hezekiah and the qualities that he had that was there, and you think about the qualities of his dad, where do you think, how did he become such a servant to God? What caused him to do that? You can speculate because it doesn't tell us right here.
It might have been his mother.
Could have been his mother. His mother's only mentioned twice in there, but that's where I went to. I thought it could have been his mother. It could have been the fact that even though the king, was not faithful, he did a lot of evil things that were going on there. He gave them access to scholars and tutors and so forth that his mother could have taken him to in order to learn that, to gain knowledge as it related to that. And he accepted that and became devout to God. And that helped in the training that he was going through. And so when he went through that. Also, when Hezekiah came into power or reign, the things that he went back and did was the temple was cleansed, worship was reinstated, the Passover was reinstated. Again, the bronze serpent was destroyed, and he set an example of personal faith and goodness. So Hezekiah was doing a lot of good things for that. As we go on into 2 Kings, around verse 9 or so, that we're at there, we see that, and I've tried to practice these names for the last month. But anyhow, we'll call them what we can here. Salmanasar, who was the king of Assyria at that time, marched against Samaria and laid siege on it. At the end of 3 years, the Assyrians took it. So that would have made King Hezekiah, since that was in his 4th year, he would have been about 29 at that point in his period of time. And so he's still a young person. Again, they have another issue that is going on, that whenever he is in his 6th year of reign, the king of Assyria deported Israel to Assyria and settled them in Haley in God's Goaz and on the Haber River and in the town of Medes. This occurred because of their unfaithfulness. They were unwilling to obey the Lord and the commands that he had going on there, and had violated his covenant, all that Moses and the servants of the Lord commanded. So he was not, these people were not following God. And then in the 14th year, which of his reign, where most of the things were happening that we're looking at, King Hezekiah's reign, then these king of Assyria attacked the fortified cities of Jerusalem. There were 14 of these cities, and he captured all of these cities. So you have King Hezekiah, because he started at 25, and then he looks around and he sees this king that's going around and capturing all of these different lands and different things that are going on there, and is continuing to do that, and has done that through the 14th year of his reign. And so he's looking around at what's going on, and he decides that maybe I should send a message to the king of Astra. And he said, I have done wrong. Withdraw from me, and I will pay whatever you demand of me. Why is he saying he's done wrong? Yeah, early on in that first part that we talked about, whenever he became king, he started doing all of these different things. One of the things that he did at that time is that he withdrew from Astra. He didn't want to have anything to do with them. And so over that period of time, from the age of 25 up to now 39, he hasn't had anything to do, didn't want to have anything to do with it. But now he's looking around, and the fact that the king was able to go into Judah, and he had 14 cities there that they had captured that were walled cities. They weren't just out in the open, but they were walled cities that was going on there. He had been able to attack them. So Hezekiah said, maybe we should make a deal here. Let's try to see what we can do to work something out, not only to save the city, but also to save the people that were there in that city. So he asked him, what do you want? Well, the king comes up with what he'd like to have. He wanted 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. And so Hezekiah gave him all the gold and all the silver that he had in the temple. And then he went about stripping all the gold and everything off of the door frames and the doorposts and everything of the temple, and he gave that to him as well. I guess, the question is, he's done all that and trying to make this deal with him in order to keep him from coming into the city. So, what is that going to really work for him? So what is occurring now as we move on, now we see the next thing that happened there in verse 17 is that the king of Asher sent the supreme commander, his chief officer, and the field commander with a large army to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. So trying to pay him off didn't work very well. He was still willing to come to him, and he was wanting to see what he had. And so the field commander came up there and called out for the king, and the king Hezekiah sent out three guys, his administrator, secretary, and the recorder, in order to listen to the field commander as to what it is that he wanted to say. And the field commander goes on and he says, I want you to tell Hezekiah this. He said, on what basis are you trying to have this confidence of yours? What are you doing? He said, it sounds like a lot of words that you're just saying, that you really aren't able to do much of anything. And on whom are you depending to rebel against me? Then he goes down through this list of things that he has got there. He said, I know that you're depending on Egypt. And he refers to them as a splinter breed of staff. But if you say to me, we are depending on our Lord, our God, isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah removed and saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship before the altar in Jerusalem? Come now, let's make a bargain. So he's wanting to make a deal. So he's saying, I'll give you 2,000 horses if you can put riders on them. And he's then he goes on, and at that point, then the delegation that Hezekiah had sent out there, these three men come back and they ask him to speak in Aramaic. Aramaic was a language a diplomatic language that they used, but he continued to speak in Hebrew. Well, you can imagine that here these three guys, this was my vision of it, is that they're on this wall and that he's talking to them, and surrounded with them is all the people that are there. And so they can understand what is being said. So the whole intent of this field commander was to try to intimidate all the people that were around him so that they will say, no, Hezekiah, we got to turn this over to him. We don't need to be here with this. We need to do something different. And he's saying, make peace with me and come with me. Then each of you will eat fruit from your own vine and fig trees and drink water from your cisterns until I come and take you to the land like your own, and the land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey. Choose life and not death. So there's a threat that he's making to him. You either come with me or you're going to die. And so that wasn't a lot of good options that were going on there that he had. And he went on to say, don't listen to Hezekiah. He's misleading you. The Lord will deliver us. Has the God of any nation ever delivered his land from the hand of the king of Asher? Who of all the gods in these countries has been able to save this land from me? How can the Lord deliver Jerusalem from my hand? So he's going through this, he's putting down God. When you look at kind of a summary there, he is put down the Egyptians for the help that they were could possibly have done by calling them a crushed reed. He's scorned the Jerusalem's fighting men. He scorned Hezekiah's delegation by not speaking in Arabic but Hebrew. He's told all the people of Jerusalem that they will eat and drink their own human waste. And then he scorned Hezekiah, then he scorned Yahweh or God, and he scorned the gods of all the other nations. So he is there, his sole intent is to try to ridicule the people that are there. When the field commander finished talking and finished with his report, Hezekiah had instructed each one of them not to say anything at that point in time. He said, come back and tell me what was said. And so they went back and they told the king what had been said. And when Hezekiah heard this report, what do you think that Hezekiah was hearing when he made the report to him? What was he thinking was happening on that?
He lost control of everything.
He lost control of everything. He wanted total surrender. He wanted Hezekiah just to say, okay, it's all yours, and to walk away from that. But Hezekiah decided that he needed to get some additional help. So he sent the secretary and and the administrator and the leading priest to the prophet Isaiah in order to consult with God and to find out, what is it that we do? What actions do we take? And when they get there, they said, they told him, when they met with Isaiah, they told him, this is what Hezekiah says. This day is the day of distress and rebuke and disgrace. That's when children come to the moment of birth and there is no strength to deliver them. It may be that the Lord your God will hear all the words of the field commander, whom the master and the king of Asherah has sent to ridicule the living God, and that he will rebuke him for the words the Lord your God has heard. Therefore, pray for the remnant that will survive. He was sending a message that he was, had done all that he could do. And he's talking about how that the distress that they were under, the rebuke that they'd had, the disgrace that was going on there, and that as a nation, they had no strength in order to overcome this. He's looking at that as saying, we've done what we can do. Without you, there's not anything that we can do. And also, they're ridiculing God while they're doing this. Everything that he's saying, he's putting down God because he's saying there's not really one that can help you out with this. And so he went there. When they got there, and Isaiah told the officials, he said, tell your master, this is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Wow, okay, good. That's easy said. But do not be afraid of what you have heard, those words with which the underlings of the king of Asherah have blasphemed me. Listen, when he hears a certain report, I will make him want to return to his own country, and there I will have him cut down with a sword. Those were encouraging words to these people because they have lost all that they can. They have great confidence that God will be there to help them. Hezekiah was always faithful and trusted what God was saying to him. He believed that when you ask God to help you, that he's going to be there to take care of you. He talked about, he said that there's going to be a certain report and I will make him want to return. Sounds like he's got maybe control of a mind there that in this man that he's going to drive him in a different direction of what he's going to be doing. There were some things that Hezekiah was also doing in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. See if I can do this open right quick. Chapter 32. We see in that particular book where Hezekiah did a number of different things in order to try to defend the city of Jerusalem. They went out and they trenched an area that would bring water into the city of Jerusalem. They shut off the water on the outside and diverted it to where it would go under and into the city of Jerusalem. It was like, according to reports, like 1,720 some feet long. And even archaeologists have have unearthed that today to where they have found that was there at that time. So they wanted to divert the water from there. They also began to repair the walls that were in the city in order to try to fortify those up as well. They built additional walls around the city in order to add for additional protection. They built more weapons. They helped organize their army better. He went about doing some work that he knew that he could do. Kind of like we can go to God and we can ask for Him to help us with certain things, but sometimes there's some things that we can do as well and that we should do. And we should make efforts in order to serve God and to do those things. And that's, if we look at this, that's kind of an example of what Hezekiah was doing. He said, obviously I can't do what God can do, but here are a few things that I can do. In 32 verse 8, they are talking there, and he said he has with him mere human strength, but the Lord our God is with us to help us and to fight our battles. The army was encouraged by the words of King Hezekiah of Judea. So he's saying, yeah, we've seen all of the things that this king has and the type of things that they have done, but they don't have God on their side. And he's saying that is who we need to have, and that is the one that is going to help us through that. Hezekiah then receives a letter or a message from some messengers, and apparently the delegation that had gone to see Isaiah had not returned as yet, because he hadn't got the message that God was going to take care of all of this. And so he is reading this letter that he received from messengers, and then he went up into the temple of the Lord and spread that out before the Lord. And then the Hezekiah began to pray to the Lord. So when we have problems, how do we deal with those problems? Do we just kind of keep them to ourselves? Do we lay those out in front of God? It's always kind of scary to me is that when we know that God knows every thought that we have and everything that we do, it's like, oh boy, wish I could slip past that one. But we know that's not happening. But here's an example of what Hezekiah did. He went to the temple. He literally took that message and he laid it out on the floor and he said, here's what's happening to me. Here's what's going on. How can you help me? I need your help. So he begins to pray to God. He said, Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned between the cherubim, you alone are God over all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Give ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see. Listen to the words, Chron, has sent to ridicule the living God. It is true, Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste. These have laid waste to these kingdoms, to these nations and their lands. They have thrown their God into the fires and destroyed them, for they were not gods, but only wood and stone fashioned by human hands. Now, Lord, our God, deliver us from his hands, so that all the kingdom of the earth may know that you alone, Lord, are God. You know, he's at the end of his rope. He's talking to God. He's gotten this report. Again, not only did he get to hear it, now they sent him a message in writing, and now he's getting hit again with it. And so he's saying, you know, his purpose here is to plead to God for deliverance from this. And for the Lord, for the ultimatum that this field commander has given to God of like, you can't do anything, to turn that around to say, yes, I can, and this is what I'm going to do. He is, you know, pleading there. It's like, you know, give ear, Lord. Well, I'm sure the Lord was hearing everything that was going on there. Yes.
You know, it sounds like Hezekiah was saying, all we've heard is bad news.
Yes.
And when you hear that bad news all the time, you begin to believe it. It's easy to start accepting it. And they're being told, you know, your God, he's a joke. He can't do anything.
Right.
And we're in control. And yet, in spite of that, Hezekiah was showing great faith. He says, you know, this is all the bad news we're getting. But the truth of the matter is, we trust in the Lord, our God. And your gods, you know, they've been destroyed. They're just nothing but wood and stone. And so I think it just showed great integrity and great faith on Hezekiah's part to pray this prayer, especially when you hear all the bad news. You know, I've noticed on television, I call the news at 5:30 the bad news.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, the last 5 minutes, they call it the good news. They tell you a good story. And maybe they'll leave a good taste in your mouth that, you know, maybe the world's not coming to an end or all this stuff. And it sounds like that's kind of what's happening here, that all they heard was bad news, 25 minutes of bad news, and now Hezekiah said, let me tell you the good news. The good news is that we have a God that's going to control and take over. And that just, you know, I think that was an encouragement to the rest of the people.
I think that's exactly right.
Sometimes in life circumstances, we get to a point where we have no place else to go but to the Lord.
Yeah.
And we know He hears us and He cares for us. And those things happen, and things that we have no control over. But we know the Lord is there for us.
Right. Now that is so true. I mean, God is always there with us, helping us through whatever is going on in our life, and as they go through this. So finally, he gets the answer. The answer comes back to him here a couple of verses down from that, and he says, you know, this is what the Lord God of Israel, when they get this, says, I have heard your prayers concerning the king of Ashur. And he goes on and he says in verse 32 of chapter 19, therefore, this is what the Lord says concerning the king of Ashur. He will not enter the city or shoot an arrow here. He will not come before it with shield or build a siege ramp against it. By the way that he came, he will return. He will not enter the city, declares the Lord. I will defend this city and save it for my sake and for the sake of David, my servant. That had to bring a lot of comfort to Hezekiah and to those that he told that to, in order to know that God was going to be there. But the next morning, during that night, the Lord, an angel of the Lord, went out and put to death 185,000 of the army that was waiting outside for them there in Syrian camp. And when they got up, there was all of the bodies that were laying there. They immediately, the king of Asher broke camp and withdrew and returned to Nineveh and stayed there. Also within that was that something was going to happen to the king. And in Chronicles 32, 20, 23, he says, and the Lord sent an angel to annihilate and fight all the fighting men and the commanders and officials in the camp of the Asher king. So he withdrew to his own land in disgrace. And when he went into the temple of the gods, some of his sons, his own flesh and blood, cut him down with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem from the hand of the king of Asher, and from the hand of all the others. He took care of them on every side. You know, it's one of those deals that if we trust God, if we are faithful to God, if we obey what He tells us, He's going to take care of us. I know that we're going to have problems, we're going to have issues, we're going to have things that are going on in our lives, but there are those opportunities that that He will be there to help us. I think I'm jumping ahead, but anyway. Back up. After that, and it apparently wasn't a great deal of length of time too far before after that happened until Hezekiah became very ill. I mean, he'd gone through all of this, and then he became very ill. And the prophet Isaiah, this is in chapter 20, verse 1 through 11 there. The prophet Isaiah went to him and said, this is what the Lord says, put your house in order because you are going to die. You will not recover. Wow, that's exciting news to get. You had gone through this, you've been faithful to the Lord. You're saying, you said if I'd be faithful that my years would be extended. Last week, I forgot who to study, but anyway, one of the things that stuck out to me because I've been looking at this was in that individual, his life was I think it's Solomon, maybe it was, that his life was extended as well. And here Hezekiah is saying, wow, okay. So here Hezekiah turns his face to the wall and he begins to pray. Remember, Lord, how I have walked before you faithfully and with wholehearted devotion and have done what is good in your eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. Israel left, but before he got even to the middle of the court, the Lord responded to him. He said, go back and tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David says. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you. On the third day from now, you will go up to the temple. I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hands of the king of Asher. I will defend this city for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. So he answers his prayer. He gives him additional 15 years that he will be there and to live. Then Isaiah begins to prepare a poultice in order to try to take care of the illness that he is, the boils that he has, and so that he might recover. And he did, and as, like, that's it, okay. As he recovered, he continued to be there. You know, one of the things that it talks about as well here, I almost forgot, is that Hezekiah says, how will I know what the time is going to be? And he said, okay. He said, if you look at the steps, Isaiah answered, this is the Lord's sign to you that the Lord will do what he has promised. Shall the shadows go forward 10 steps, or shall it go back 10 steps? It is a simple matter for the shadow to go forward 10 steps, said Hezekiah. Rather have it go back 10 steps. Then the prophet Isaiah called to the Lord, and the Lord made the shadows go back the 10 steps it had gone down on the stairway in Asherah. So that was a sign in order to back the shadows up the steps as opposed to having them go down. You know, when we look at this, we see the faith that he had and how he lived his life and what was going on within his life. How he dedicated himself to serving God and all of the things that are necessary, that he was always trusted in the Lord to take care of him and what all that he did. And that's so important for us today, is to always have that trust that God is going to be there to care for us in what all that we do. Thank you so much. I enjoyed having an opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Hopefully we